But first, it was clear from day one of the Republican National Convention that the GOP is energised. How much of this we can put down to Trump's brush with death? Well, it's hard to tell just now, but for a party that's been fractious in the past, there were no signs of that today in Milwaukee. Australia's former ambassador to the United States, former Liberal Treasurer Joe Hockey, has spent the day at the conference, and I was able to catch up with him a little earlier. Joe Hockey, welcome to the program. Let's start with the big news of Trump's running mate, JD Vance. What do you make of Trump's pick of a first-term senator as his running mate?
Well, there is an element of risk to it, Peter. There's no doubt about that. JD Vance is a first-term senator. He's only 39 years of age. Has the same birthday as me, but 19 years later was he born. And frankly, from a Trump perspective, he's a safe bet. He's, from a policy perspective, on the same page as Donald Trump. Having said all of that, there's no doubt that the next 4 years are going to be the equivalent of a long episode of The Apprentice. So JD Vance is going to have to earn his stripes. It's not going to be an easy path for him to succeed Donald Trump.
Vance has got a real connection with what we in Australia would call the forgotten Australians, the forgotten Americans in your case, particularly in the southern states, the Rust Belt areas where people feel that globalisation has perhaps passed them by. Vance also has a military background, and as a veteran, that will obviously aid Trump. At one time, of course, he was a never-Trumper. Do you think, Joe, that the room's now forgiven him?
He is a blue-collar candidate. There's no doubt about that. And even as we're speaking, you know, the speaker on the stage is talking about how he favours union-based workers, and Donald Trump favours union-based workers. So there is a real targeting of the blue-collar base that has been abandoned by the Democrats. And you know, JD Vance has an incredible story. You know, he was abandoned by his father. His mother was a drug addict. He was raised by his grandparents in a very, very poor household. And he pulled himself up. He went to Yale and studied law. He was a Marine that served. He was a very successful businessman in a short period of time. All of that cascades into an incredible story that the Republicans traditionally used to have, but lost for a while there, and it's completely counter-narrative to what the Democrats are claiming about the Republican Party.
All right, let's forecast into what we can expect will be a very different speech from Trump on Thursday. All the headlines here and in the US are saying this is a born-again Trump. This is Donald Trump 2.0. Well, if that's the case, what does it mean for the man and the campaign?
Well, Donald Trump's policies 2.0 will be the same as the first term. He'll want lower taxes, less regulation. He'll want to control the borders. He'll want to empower the military with greater resources. He'll stand up to America's enemies, which people tend to overlook. He really did stand up to North Korea, to Russia, to China, and forget the rhetoric, he stood up to them. And of course, you know, he rails against a vast amount of money being spent on climate change. He wants America to be energy independent, which it already is. All those things. There is a policy divide. You'll understand this, Peter. There is a deep policy divide between the Republicans and the Democrats. That is what defines American politics. And it's all of those things. The Republicans believe in lower tax, less regulation, greater focus on controlling the borders, better immigration, etc., etc. Whereas the Democrats are the opposite. And that is what is hardening up the base of both parties. The personalities of the candidates are just on top. So Donald Trump is in a very strong position, not just because of all the events that have occurred and because of Biden's weaknesses. Donald Trump is in a strong position because of policy and policy principles.
Joe, I reckon you as an Australian know Trump better than anyone else. So what do you think of the events on the weekend and how they would be weighing on him personally?
Look, Peter, you know, I have been there when he's discussed security. and he knows that he's been a target. I think it will affect Donald Trump. There's no doubt about that. It will affect him, but I don't like to say it, but it's going to make him a better person, a more tolerant person, a more sensitive person to division. And I think it's going to make him a better president to have survived such a shocking and horrible event, because he is now very much aware of the risk of the job. He's also very aware of his own potential frailty, and I think that's one of the reasons why he went with JD Vance, and I think that's why he'll temper his speech on Thursday. He is a pugilist, he loves a fight, but at the same time he will focus on the fact that he needs to have a succession plan that works for America and not just Donald Trump.